I'm Megan, and my parents are up here in the front row, and they have been a big part of my athletic experience. They are both big-time runners. My dad has won the St. George Marathon several times. Last year was 2:26, something. He's 54, 53 years old doing those times. So anyways, I came from a family of runners. My older sister went to high school with me at Provo High. She was a couple years ahead, and her sophomore year was already a state champion in cross country. And so coming into high school, I thought, well, I guess I'll just be a runner like the rest of my family. And I felt like I kind of had big shoes to fill. And my freshman year, we had summer training for cross country, and they were early mornings, out with the others, and I hated it at first. It was not fun. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna break the family mold, go play volleyball or something else. But I decided that I was gonna give it a little bit more time. It was kind of the only sport that was practicing during the summer, and within a couple of weeks, I started to fall in love with it. I realized that it was actually so much fun, and a big reason for that was because of the friendships and relationships that I made because of track. And so, yeah, the highlights of my high school career, all of them involve other people, like my teammates, and those around me. Having my sister on the team was amazing as well. And yeah, my freshman year, like, obviously I felt like I had big shoes to fill. My older sister was a state champion, and she was talking to colleges, being recruited, eventually signed to BYU. And I remember thinking that would just be the coolest thing in the world. And I asked my dad, like, what it was gonna take to be able to run for BYU as well. And he kind of gave me the times that he thought it might take. And I remember my freshman year, this was me as a freshman, still really trying to figure things out. And I thought, wow, that's gonna take a lot, but we'll go for it. And luckily I was able to have just the best support throughout my high school experience. And I was able to sign to BYU. And things were going really well. Things were looking pretty promising for my collegiate future. But on July 4th of 2019, which was the summer after I graduated high school, I was involved in a serious rollover car accident. And my brother was driving down the canyon with me, and when we turned the corner, there was a deer. And he swerved to miss the deer. The deer's fine, but the car was not, and we were not. I remember as the car was rolling, each time we hit the ground, I just remembered thinking, I need this to stop, like my neck hurts so bad. And the car stopped on the passenger side. My brother asked, are you okay, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay, my neck just really hurts. So, yeah, he got me out of the car through the sunroof, and we had convinced ourselves that everything was okay, that everything was just fine. We called our parents to come take us to the hospital, and there were a lot of miracles that I felt like happened that day. And one of those miracles was there was a passerby that saw us out in the field and realized that our injuries were probably a little more severe than we thought, and was able to call for the help that we needed. And in the hospital, you know, my neck is hurting pretty bad, but yeah, I was still in denial, still convinced that everything was fine. They were putting me in all these scans. I was thinking, oh, I don't need these. What's going on? So I was surprised when the doctor came back to say, you've broken your neck. I had shattered the vertebrae C4, 5, and 6. And they were gonna be life-flighting me to the hospital. And a few minutes after that, I turned to my dad and asked, am I gonna be okay? And in that moment, neither of us really knew what okay meant, but he said, yeah, you're gonna be okay. And that was kind of all I needed for the next little bit. I was able to kind of go back on that and think, okay, I'm going to be okay. But there were a lot of questions about what running was going to look like from here. I was still able to be on the team. I started my freshman year as the girl in a neck brace that needed help carrying her backpack around from class to class. And then, yeah, I was able to start biking, and from there it turned into being able to aqua jog. And what we thought would be a year or two away turned into about 6 or 7 months that I was able to start running again. And I was so excited to be running again, but it wasn't quite the same as what it was in high school. When I first started running, I think my first race I ran like a 57, which in contrast in high school I ran a 52. So there was a ways to go. I was excited to be wearing the BYU uniform, but things weren't quite going the way that I was hoping they would. But yeah, still just grateful to be there. As time went on and I was getting some more training and racing under my belt, I was able to run some good times, but nothing super consistent. And my coach had mentioned a couple of times, like, this might need to be something we just move on from. You might need to find something else. Because it just really, wasn't working out super well for me. About a year after the accident, I was driving with some teammates at a track meet, and it was dark and rainy outside, and someone made a joke about hydroplaning. And as they said that, I noticed that the car started to shift a little bit, and I was feeling some slight hydroplaning, and that sensation just kind of brought me back to the crash. And I started hyperventilating, I started crying. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I just couldn't really control what was going on in my body. And once I got calmed down, I realized, like, okay, that was a panic attack. That was just like a one-time thing. Everything's gonna be all right. But then the next day it happened again. And the following week it happened several times. And I realized that something was really, really going wrong. And I was able to get some help for it, and talking with therapists, but it was still just a lot to work through and was really affecting my running and just overall well-being. By the time I got to my third year of competing, so yeah, this was my fourth year in college, my times were just not going super well. But I had declared that I wanted to keep going, I wanted to keep running. And we were trying to figure out what the best plan was going to be, because what was going on then just wasn't working. And I sat down with my coach, and she said, okay, we're too focused on the outcome. We want these times, we want these places. What we really need to be thinking about is the process, and we need to be having fun with what's going on throughout this. And so that's something I tried to take to heart. We had this thing, we just need to get to the starting line. And we knew if I got to the starting line that day, that was going to be a success. And that kind of helped take some pressure off. I feel like so often, especially in youth sports, there's just a lot of pressure to perform as you're trying to continue to get better. But as I've made goals that were more process-oriented instead of outcome-oriented, that's where I saw the most success. And yeah, this fourth year, it was getting pretty tricky for me. But as I stuck with this through those months, things started to get better. Going into the regional meet, I was ranked, I think, 78th in the nation or something like that. And at the region meet, 48 qualify. There's 2 regions in the country and 48 qualify. And to make it to nationals, you have to get through the first round of regionals, which splits it in half. So you go from 48 to 24. And I knew I just had to have fun. I just needed to enjoy the process. I just needed to make it to the starting line. And I had a great race in that first round that led me to the second round at regionals. And now for this round, it's again cutting the field in half. So we went from 48 to 24 now 12 will make it to nationals. And I just did the same thing. I thought, okay, I just need to make it to the starting line. Everything's gonna be all right. And that's what I did, and that's what this picture was from. I was so excited that after these years and years of things not going super well, it was starting to click and pay off. And I made it to nationals. And at this point, previously I had been ranked 78 in the nation, and now at nationals there were 24 people there, and 9 make it to the final. And yeah, same thing, just tried to have fun, made it to the starting line, and had the race of my life and made it to the national final. And then there 9 make it, 8 are All-American, and I beat the one that I needed to beat and ended up All-American. So things just really, really fell into place when I realized, like, okay, I'm not focused on the outcome, just need to enjoy the process. So that was a huge lesson that I had learned through that. The following year, I had a successful indoor season. Things were going better than I could have imagined, and we got to indoor conference. And here, I thought I was doing all the things right and just kind of blew up at conference. Things didn't go very well, and I couldn't figure out why. And I was feeling pretty down in the dumps about it, and nationals was the next meet, which I had qualified for, which was 2 weeks later. And going into this race, I was just kind of thinking worst case scenario, like what if my legs just don't work like they did at conference? What if all these terrible things happen? And I had a teammate who gave me a little goodie bag as I went to nationals. And in this little goodie bag, there was this little picture, the what if. What if it goes well? What if you have fun? What if you succeed? What if it works out? What if nothing goes wrong? And what if everything is okay? And for some reason, this really spoke to me. I thought, okay, on one side, there's the what if everything goes wrong, but why not focus on the other side? What if everything goes right? And that mindset is what kept me going, kept my nerves down during that race. And I surprised myself by making it to the final that year. And then in the final, that's where I was able to place 3rd. And so it's so easy to be overthinking all the worst case scenarios. But when you bring it back, if we can think about the what if something terrible happens, why not be able to think about what if everything actually goes well? So that was a huge lesson that I learned. And throughout all of these experiences, it was clear that it was never just a straight path of progress. There were a lot of ups and downs. And one time when I was kind of in one of my lowest of the lows, I was talking with my therapist, and I was telling her about kind of everything that I felt like I was doing and couldn't figure out what was going on. And she was like, okay, Megan, you're doing a lot of things right, but one thing that you have to get in your head is that progress isn't linear. And that was something that has just really stuck with me through the years. I realized that there are going to be so many dips. It's not going to be smooth sailing. And when, our team has this motto. Our team mascot is the butterfly. Because just when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, it turned into a butterfly. And so on our team, you'll see a lot of us with butterfly jewelry and little butterfly symbols everywhere. And when we have those dips, things can go up from there. And when you zoom back and look at the big picture, that's really all that matters. And so that's kind of been the biggest motto through these years that I've felt have helped me to be able to succeed in athletics and just kind of life in general. Just before conference, I started feeling some foot pain. And I thought it might go away, and a couple days later it came on pretty strong the week before conference. And I ended up having to sit out of conference, and this was kind of a scary time for me because Nationals was going to be in 2 weeks, and we had to take some time off of running. We were in a boot for a little bit, but yeah, we just tried to do everything we could to kind of keep everything together to be able to still race at indoor nationals. And I got to the starting line not fully confident with everything, just with how the training had looked the past few weeks. I was able to helpfully get to the starting line thanks to Dr. Jackson. I think I saw him walk in here. Oh yes, Dr. Jackson up there. I think he talked about concussions to you guys earlier. But yeah, I was able to helpfully get to the starting line, but just, yeah, training hadn't really gone my way, and I fell just short of making it to the nationals, national final. And I was pretty discouraged by this because this is my last season at BYU, and the season really matters for kind of what's next for me. I have loved my career here at BYU, and even this year things were really going up. Again, I had a really great indoor season. Dr. Seeley. Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind repeating the question after it's asked for the recording.
Okay.
Can you give us an example of some process goals that you used in your own training?
Mm-hmm.
And I assume the outcome goals were the times, but
Right.
some good examples of process goals. And then maybe if you could give us some process goals that you use in your non-track life as well.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the question was, what do those process goals really look like? And for me, the process goal that I first started with was just to have fun. I wanted to be doing something that I actually enjoyed, and I loved working out and practicing with the team, but when it came to races, it was not very fun. I was just so stressed. And so, yeah, my biggest process goal that I had back then and kind of kept was to just have fun with it. And if I had fun, enjoyed myself, that was kind of a successful day. And then the getting to the starting line, I feel like that kind of blurs the line between the outcome and process goals because, you know, it was still an outcome, but it was all kind of part of the process and getting ready for that race. And so I think that, yeah, there's the process goals, but something that I felt like was just as helpful was having outcome goals that were things that I knew I could do, like making it to the starting line or, making it to the finish line is then what we expanded it to the year after. Just kind of the attitude and enjoyment was what I used for those process goals. Yeah.
As parents, parents and coaches, we like to cheer on our athletes and encourage them. What have you found to be helpful as you're going down that cross-country course or taking laps around the track? What helps you and what doesn't?
Yeah. The question was like, as parents and coaches, like what helps an athlete succeed in their different things. And I felt like my parents had a really great balance of being involved, but also letting others do their job. You know, they let my coaches take care of the coaching part of it, but we're still there for me, like when I ask questions. And so I feel like the biggest guideline for me is like, I felt like I could ask for help when I wanted it. And then I love when, I'll take you back to this story that I had with my coach. It was after a pretty bad race, and she said some things that like really, really hurt and really stung, and I felt like were a little too intense for the situation. And it was just the day later that she wrote me and said, okay, obviously what we're doing isn't working, so what can we do that will work? And just her asking me like kind of how I wanted to be coached was huge for me. I was able to tell her, okay, like, you know, it felt like a little too strong, like, let's try these things. And yeah, she was able to stick with those. So yeah, I feel like just kind of for each person, it's going to be so individual, but just kind of sitting down and talking with them and figuring out kind of what styles work best, I feel like is a helpful thing. Yeah. Yeah.
You seem so sweet and successful in your sport. Have you ever had to deal with negativity like from your peers in sport? And if so, how did you handle that?
Oh, well, thanks. She asked about how to handle kind of negativity from peers or teammates. And I won't call anyone out, but I have had some experiences with some teammates who weren't as helpful. In college, I had a teammate who really struggled with other people's success. I felt like she was kind of there for people when things weren't going well, but as soon as things turned more successful, that's kind of when you saw things go downhill. And it took me a while to kind of, realize that I needed to just stand up for myself. I'm not very good at confrontation. I feel like the first thing is just being aware, because for so long I just kind of thought that it was normal. I feel like once you're aware, you're able to kind of be able to take those steps back and realize. And then, the great thing is there's on a team, you can kind of choose the people you surround yourself with. Just kind of being an advocate for yourself and choosing the people that you're around. Just having those uncomfortable conversations as well was kind of what helped me. And then also something else with that, I feel like when those experiences happen, it's so easy to kind of spread that negativity further. When someone hurts you, it's easy to talk behind their back to everyone else and let everyone know what's going on, that's really not a helpful thing. So just making sure that, you yourself are being positive and helpful, and then, just surrounding yourself with those good people.
First of all, I think it's so amazing and inspiring that you had those goals coming out of high school and getting into college, and you had that huge setback, but your goals didn't change, where other people would have probably let that derail their goals, their aspirations. But you held on to those goals, and you were still able to meet those. I wondered what specific, you kind of alluded to this already, but what specific advice would you offer to youth who maybe they look around like they have goals and they want to see themselves perform at the top of their sport, but they look around themselves now and they see other people doing a lot better than them, and maybe they're letting a little bit of self-doubt creep in. What would you say to youth in that mindset?
Yeah, so the question was kind of what would you say to youth who have some doubt kind of creeping in when it comes to different goals that they've set. And something I like to think about is kind of my future self and past self, looking at things kind of big picture. I think back to little Meghan and just thinking about kind of how proud that she would be that I'm here, like going for those goals. And then I think of future Meghan and kind of what's the best way to kind of set myself up for future Meghan. And so, just looking at things big picture and remembering kind of what you're doing it for.